My wife invited her entire family to watch me give a toast at my own promotion party, then interrupted me to announce she was quitting her job to finally chase real happiness without me. Her brother yelled, "About time you dumped that boring loser." They clinked glasses while I just stood there holding my award. 6 months later, she was waiting outside my office in tears, holding a sign that said, "I made a mistake. Please let me in." At my work promotion party, while I was holding my award and preparing to give a speech, my wife stood up first and announced she was leaving me to finally chase happiness. Her brother cheered and called me a boring loser. Her whole family toasted her decision. I stood there stunned. She left me, took our savings, and her startup flopped. Now, 6 months later, she's outside my office in tears, holding a cardboard sign begging to talk. I haven't said a word to her. I don't know if I should. So that's it. I remember asking her. Delia tilted her head, smiling that calm, weird smile she always wore when she thought she was doing something empowering. She had a champagne glass in one hand, the other hand slightly raised, as if she were giving a TED Talk. "I just realized," she said softly, "I've been living someone else's version of happiness. And it's not mine anymore." I remember standing there in the middle of the private dining room, holding the walnut plaque engraved with my name and the words Director of Infrastructure, North Pacific Division. It was a moment I had worked toward for years. A moment I had never expected to feel so utterly humiliated in. Her brother Braden clapped, literally clapped, and then said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "About time you dumped that boring loser." Some people gasped. Others awkwardly laughed. Someone somewhere in the back raised a glass and said, "To freedom." And just like that, it stopped being a promotion party. It became a celebration of my public abandonment. We had been married for nearly 10 years. We met in Seattle at a wine tasting event that my friend Ben dragged me to. I was never good at that kind of social stuff, networking, mingling, small talk. Delia, on the other hand, was magnetic. She could start a conversation with anyone and make them feel like they were the center of the universe. She said I was a rock and that she needed someone like me to balance her out. And I guess I liked being that. Steady, reliable, even if it meant letting her shine brighter. She was in advertising, hopped around a bit, small agencies, startups, a stint at a PR firm downtown. I worked in infrastructure systems for a large tech company. Stable job, steady career. The kind of guy who fixes the Wi-Fi without saying much and doesn't make a big deal out of things. We didn't fight a lot, not loudly anyway. But over time, I noticed how often she looked elsewhere when I talked. How much time she started spending with her yoga group, a new spiritual coach, her brother and his friends who always rolled their eyes at me like I was some dusty old artifact from a life she should have outgrown. I ignored it for a long time. When I got promoted, it was a big deal. I had been working toward it for years. My boss, Mark, was retiring and recommended me for the role. It was the culmination of long nights, problem solving under pressure, and always being the guy who never lost his head when things went south. Delia insisted we celebrate. I wanted something small, maybe dinner with my team, or just the two of us. But she went ahead and booked a private room at Canlis. Told me it was her treat. I thought it was sweet at first. She seemed proud of me. When I walked into the restaurant that night, the room was packed with her people, her family, her friends. Not one coworker, not even Ben. I was confused, but I didn't say anything. Then came the moment for speeches. My former boss gave a toast. Then someone handed me the mic. And that's when Delia stepped forward. "I've decided to quit my job," she said with a brightness that didn't feel real, "and finally chase real happiness." She paused, like she was on stage. Without Conrad. That was it. No explanation. No warning. Just a neat, rehearsed, devastating line. I was frozen. Everyone was staring at me. Some people clearly didn't know whether to clap or just sit quietly. Braden clinked his glass, said his line about dumping the boring loser, and Delia just smiled. Like she was proud of herself. She left before the food arrived. Just walked out with her friends, like she had dropped the mic and exited the show. I stood there, still holding my award. I smiled, because I didn't know what else to do, and told everyone else to eat, drink, enjoy. I even made a stupid joke about dramatic exits. Then I left halfway through the meal and checked into a hotel in Bellevue under my middle name. I didn't go home for 3 days. When I did, half the house was empty. She'd taken the couch, the coffee table, the Luke Cruzet Dutch oven, and even the vintage record player I never used. There was a lawyer's card taped to the fridge. Her handwriting was on a sticky note above it. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." I didn't cry. I don't think I even breathed properly for a week. I went to work, said nothing, did my job. Got promoted again a few months later when our division landed a massive federal contract. I barely told anyone. I didn't want another party. Her lawyer demanded alimony. Said I had emotionally limited her, and she deserved compensation for the time she sacrificed her dreams to support my career. She got $38,000 in a lump sum settlement and walked away smiling. Literally, she smiled in court. 3 weeks later, I saw on social media that she'd started a wellness and lifestyle brand with a woman named Zadie, someone she'd met at her yoga retreat in Sedona. The website had all the buzzwords: intentional living, spiritual alignment, chakra repair, and a subscription box that cost $95 a month. I blocked her on everything after that. But that didn't stop her from watching me. About 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I started noticing weird little things. A former coworker of hers reached out to me on LinkedIn just to congratulate me on everything. We'd never spoken before. One of her yoga friends, someone who toasted her at the party, sent me a friend request on Facebook. Then the DM just said, "You okay?" Nothing more. I didn't respond. Then came the texts. Blocked number. Always from a new burner account. At first it was just, "Can we talk?" Then, "I messed up. I was lost. Please don't ignore me." I ignored them all. A few weeks later, Ben told me he ran into Delia at Trader Joe's in Ballard. She was alone, in sweats, no makeup, hair tied back. Not the polished version she always kept up. She told him Zadie had pulled out of the business 3 months in, took the remaining startup money, and ghosted. The LLC was already dissolved. Her parents had stopped funding her projects. Her brother Braden wasn't picking up her calls. Even her yoga circle had thinned out. Apparently, when the lifestyle brand failed, so did the sense of purpose she'd wrapped her identity around. Ben asked if I wanted to know anything else. I said no. One morning, I left the office building in South Lake Union a little later than usual. I had just finished a late client call and was heading out to grab a sandwich before the rain started. It was mid-October, that cold, sharp air started to roll in, and I wasn't really paying attention. That's when I saw her. She was standing just outside the parking structure, off to the side near the bike racks. Hood up, hair damp, eyes red. In her hands was a cardboard sign, the kind you'd expect from a protest or a desperate plea. And on it, written in thick black marker, were the words, "I made a mistake. Please let me in." My first reaction wasn't rage. It was disbelief. She looked so small. Not the firecracker woman who lit up rooms. Not the dramatic speech giver or the one who stormed out of my life like she was on a quest for enlightenment. Just a tired, heartbroken person holding up a literal sign. She saw me and started crying immediately. Not the kind of crying meant to be seen. The kind that makes your body shake, like it's all unraveling at once. I stopped in my tracks. We just stood there, maybe 30 feet apart. I didn't walk closer. She didn't speak. I looked at her, then at the sign, then turned, walked to my car, and sat inside with the door shut and my hands on the wheel. I don't even remember starting the engine. I just remember my heart pounding and this sinking feeling in my chest. Not heartbreak, not pity. Something more like, how did it ever come to this? She knocked on the window. Just once. Gently. I didn't roll it down. I didn't look at her again. After a few seconds, I put the car in reverse and drove away. That was a few weeks ago. Since then, I haven't seen her again, but she's tried. Emails. More messages from numbers I keep blocking. A package that showed up at my office. No return address. Inside was a photo album she must have made from old pictures of us. All handwritten captions. One on a sticky note said, "Remember this?" I wish I had appreciated it more. I didn't open the rest of it. It's sitting in my closet, behind a stack of unopened mail. My therapist, yes, I finally got one, told me I'm not obligated to forgive someone just because they're sorry. That I can acknowledge someone's regret without reopening old wounds. Still, some part of me keeps asking, why now? Why only after everything crumbled? Why only after the applause stopped? After the audience left? I didn't respond to the package. I told myself not to feed the story she was probably spinning in her head, that this was the beginning of some redemptive arc. That I'd come to the door, let her in, and we'd fall back into place like no time had passed. But something changed after that day in the garage. I'd be working, typing up a report or sitting in a meeting, and suddenly I'd remember a version of her from years ago. The woman who used to bring me coffee just the way I liked it, leave sticky notes in my lunch, say, "I'm proud of you," when I least expected it. The woman I thought had my back. And then that version would crash into the memory of her at that party, standing beside me, smiling at a crowd, while she delivered her departure like a show-ending monologue. The applause, the toast, the empty plate she left behind. It was like grieving two people, the woman I married and the one who walked away. I didn't talk about her to anyone for a long time. Ben was the only one who really pressed me on it, probably because he'd known me since college and had a built-in radar for when I was lying to myself. "You think you owe her something?" he asked one night over beers. "Because she's miserable now?" "I don't know," I said. I keep wondering how it turned into that." He nodded slowly, then leaned back in his chair and said something I've never forgotten. "Because she wasn't breaking up with you that night, man. She was performing." And he was right. It was never about me. Not really. It was about her moment. Her declaration. Her clean break, broadcast like a sermon. She wanted people to clap. I started going to the gym again, just to get out of the house. My apartment downtown was too quiet sometimes, especially on Sundays. That's when we used to go for brunch and argue over where to park. The gym was mostly headphones, podcasts, and avoiding eye contact. But one day, a woman in the stretching area dropped her water bottle, and I picked it up. We talked for a bit. Her name was Mara. She worked as a physical therapist. Didn't have social media, didn't like small talk, loved hiking, and hated loud parties. She didn't know who Delia was. Had never heard the name. It was refreshing. We started getting coffee after our workouts. Then dinner. Then walks around Green Lake. I didn't tell her everything. Not right away. But when I did, I expected her to flinch or freeze or say something uncomfortable. Instead, she just said, "You didn't deserve that." And she knew it. There was no drama in her voice. No need to make it about her. Just a quiet, steady acknowledgement that hit me harder than any apology Delia had ever tried to give. Still, I felt like I was walking on a frozen lake. Carefully, testing the weight of every step. Because Delia had broken something in me I didn't know could break. Not trust. Not exactly. More like faith. Faith that someone could love you and still not need an audience to prove it. A few days ago, I came home from work and found another envelope taped to my door. Just my name, in handwriting I recognized instantly. Inside was a letter. 5 pages. No fluff. No poetic language. Just her handwriting, black ink, some spots where the pen must have hovered a little too long. She said she realized something the day she stood outside my office with that sign. That she had never actually been chasing happiness. Only running from stillness. She said being alone in her childhood bedroom, with the silence and the closed laptop and the business gone, made her confront something she'd avoided her whole life. The fact that applause doesn't last, and when it fades, you're left with whoever you are in the dark. She said I was her safe place, and she mistook that safety for boredom. That she hated herself for not realizing until too late that the life she'd torn apart was the one she should have protected. She didn't ask to come back. Not directly, but she said she'd keep waiting, keep hoping, that if I ever changed my mind, even if it was years from now, she'd be there. I read the letter once, then again, then I put it back in the envelope, slid it into the drawer under my old tax paperwork, and left it there. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just felt tired. Like I just climbed out of a long, deep tunnel into air that was too clean. Mara doesn't know about the letter. I haven't brought it up yet. Not because I'm hiding it, but because I don't want her to feel like she's walking in someone else's shadow. And I don't want to give Delia the ending she wants, whatever that is. Not yet, anyway. I started sleeping better around that time. Not every night. Some nights I still woke up at 3 a.m. with my mind cycling through moments I hadn't even realized stuck with me. Not just the party. Earlier. Little red flags I ignored. Like the way Delia used to joke about people who stayed in the same job for too long. It's like spiritual death, she'd say, swirling her wine glass. Clocking in and out, year after year, with no adventure. No risk. I'd laugh politely. I thought she was being playful, not dismissive. Or how she never introduced me to her yoga friends beyond surface level. At one party, someone asked me, "And what do you do again?" Something with wires. That wasn't a slip. It was curated ignorance. These things swirled in my head, not because I was angry, but because I was processing what I'd ignored. It's strange how your brain protects you when you're in it. You normalize the subtle slights. You excuse the gaps. You tell yourself, this is just how we love each other. But once you step away, the patterns become obvious. It's like turning on a light and realizing the wallpaper was peeling all along. Mara and I kept seeing each other. She didn't push. She didn't demand explanations for my silences. She didn't need me to be impressive. She just seemed to like being around me. One night, we were sitting on a bench by Gasworks Park, watching boats go by. She told me about her last relationship, 6 years, ended quietly, no betrayal, just a slow unraveling of mismatched priorities. Then she looked at me and asked, "What do you miss most about your old life?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about the question seriously. And when I finally spoke, it surprised even me. "I think I miss believing someone knew me fully," I said. "Even if they didn't." She nodded, like she understood. "That's what grief does," she said. "It tricks you into mourning what never really existed." She didn't mean it cruelly, and I didn't take it that way. We sat there in silence for a long time, until the sun dipped below the skyline. A week later, Delia showed up again. Not in person, not with another sign, but with something even harder to ignore. An email. It was short. Subject, "Please read this." Just once. Body, "I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know I don't deserve your time. But I want to tell you something that's not about getting back together. I've started over. Real over. I work at a bookstore now. I take the bus. I moved into a basement studio and started volunteering with seniors at the community center. For the first time in my life, I'm not trying to be seen. I'm trying to see. Really see. And what I see now is that you were always showing up for me. Quietly. Without needing credit. And I threw it away because I was too loud to hear what silence had to teach me. You were never boring. You were just grounded. And I was too scared of standing still. That's all. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know who I've become. Not who I was when I left. Take care, Delia, I read it twice. It was the most honest thing I'd ever heard her say. No theatrics. No performance. And for the first time since that night at Camless, I didn't feel rage or sadness or even longing. Just a kind of peace. Like hearing the final note of a song and knowing it's really over. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because there was nothing more to say. I closed the email and looked out the window of my apartment, watching the city lights flicker in the water. Somewhere below, people were rushing to dinners, dates, and drinks. Living. Moving forward. I poured myself a drink, sat down, and let the quiet settle over me like a blanket I hadn't known I'd missed. A few more weeks passed. Life started to feel more stable again, like furniture finally settling into place after a long, chaotic move. Delia didn't reach out again. Not directly, but I knew she was still watching. Mara and I had posted a photo together, just one. It was nothing flashy, just the two of us on a trail near Rattlesnake Ledge, muddy boots and all. I barely even use social media, but Mara posted it on her private Instagram, and a mutual friend mentioned that Delia had viewed it within minutes. It didn't surprise me. I figured she would keep tabs. But that didn't matter anymore. Because something had shifted in me. Fully, finally. I no longer needed her remorse. I no longer craved the closure I used to rehearse in my head. I didn't need to prove to her, or anyone, that I had won. But that's exactly what made what came next so satisfying. It started when I was invited to speak at a regional tech leadership conference in San Francisco. One of those suit-heavy, buzzword-filled events I used to dread, but now kind of enjoy because I can show up, speak plainly, and people actually listen. The keynote was on resilience and leadership through adversity. I gave a 20-minute talk that was part personal story, part systems engineering metaphor. People laughed at the right parts. A few even teared up. The applause was real, not loud, not theatrical, but full, genuine. Afterward, I was invited to a private dinner hosted by one of our partner firms. The kind of thing where the wine is too expensive and the name cards are printed on thick stock. I wasn't going to go, but Mara encouraged me. Go, she said. Let people see you for who you are now, not who you were with her. So I went, and that's where I saw her. Delia, sitting at the far end of the table. Not a guest, an assistant. She was dressed plainly, her hair tied back, notebook in hand, typing something on a tablet. Her name badge had her first name only. No company, no title. I almost didn't recognize her. Our eyes met, briefly. She froze. Her face turned pale, then red. I gave her a polite nod, and then I kept walking. I took my seat, shook hands, laughed at someone's joke, and carried on with my night like she wasn't even there. Because, in my world now, she wasn't. And that was the real revenge. Not rubbing it in. Not confronting her. Not demanding an apology. Just thriving. Visibly, confidently, and quietly. In a world she once threw away. Later that night, as the dinner ended and people started to filter out, I noticed her near the elevators. She looked like she wanted to say something. She hesitated, stepped forward slightly. I didn't stop walking. I didn't slow down. As the elevator doors opened, I stepped in, turned around, and for the briefest second, our eyes met again. And then the doors closed. A few months later, I got the offer of a lifetime. A chance to lead a new infrastructure innovation project. Global scope, big team, creative freedom. I took it. Moved into a new place just outside the city, quieter, greener, with a backyard full of birds and a kitchen that actually gets morning sun. Mara helped me pick out furniture. We built bookshelves together. I finally got a dog, something I'd always wanted, but Delia said was too much responsibility. Turns out, walking a dog at 7 a.m. in the rain is one of the best forms of therapy I've ever experienced. Delia? I don't know what happened to her after that conference. Maybe she found peace. Maybe she's still chasing something she can't name. But I stopped caring. She had her audience. And I found something better, a life that doesn't need applause. Just quiet, steady joy, and someone who doesn't need to leave the room to feel alive.